What's up, Van Dam fam? Where you been? I hope everyone is awesome. You know, I think most people live with guilt. A lot of guilt, some with a lesser amount of guilt, but it's something they accept as part of their regular day lives. That's also something that differentiates the basic thinkers from RVD. And I'm going to try to explain and see if some of you can be reachable and may benefit from this. So, what is guilt? It's usually considered bad, but really it also could be a matter of fact, such as RVD. I heard that you beat Bam Bam Bigelow for the TV title. Yes, I did. I am guilty of that. It could just mean that you did do that. Boom, without any subjective feeling to it. But that's not what I want to talk about. We usually refer to guilt as regret or shame, maybe in between it. Let's say it's a punishment that we give ourselves for doing something that's against our own values. Guilt hangs around for a long time, and people deal with guilt in different ways, whether they do drugs or drink, whether they reason with themselves. But, a lot of people have their own subjective versions of what is should and what is shouldn't. I find that a lot of times. Some people feel like you shouldn't swear, and they'll feel bad. Oops, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't swear. Or they'll feel proud of themselves. I've gone 2 weeks without saying an adult language word. I say, well, goo goo gaga. For me, doesn't do a thing for me. I don't mind. I'm an adult. I think, why the fuck shouldn't I use adult language, But I do know that it's interpreted differently by different people, and some people do see that as ignorant, but that's just because they have different values. So that's an example of should or shouldn't. Now, most of us think you shouldn't go around murdering people, but psychopaths, they don't seem to have a problem with it. And we've talked before about the lack of empathy. That breeds sociopaths, which also breeds psychopaths. And there's a very good chance that there's a lot of people around there like that because they just don't seem to have any guilt. And in fact, they should. It's like a check and balance system, I think, if you want to look at it like that. Now, a lot of the guilt is in the mind. Is in the mind. Hey. The mind? What is that? Ooh. Edit that out. A lot of it is, like I said, is like a punishment that hangs over you. Some of it, is just like, yeah, I do feel guilty about that, but boom, boom, boom. It's a negative feeling, though, and my ideology is always to avoid harboring negative feelings, avoid feeling negative feelings, and avoid dealing with them altogether whenever I can. It's every negative feeling, whether it's guilt, whether it's sadness, worry, anger, it changes my vibration in a bad way, and then that changes my life. So that changes my placement with my relationship with the universe, and I got to get it back. It knocks me off track, and I'm unplugged, so to speak. So it takes positive energy and a focus on that in order to get back on track. A lot of guilt comes from what? The big book. Now, people from the generation ahead of mine, like my parents, they did everything by the book, and that's why like a lot of our laws are outdated because they're still made by what the Bible says you should and shouldn't do, which is kind of weird to me now. But no offense, a lot of you probably back the Bible or at least go to church so you feel better. You go to church just to get rid of some of that guilt that you feel for sinning for the rest of the week. Now that's normal. That's the standard. At least where I grew up, it is. With the circles I run with now, the people that I'm exposed to in my life, not so much. I mean, I forget there's even churches, except when I drive around and actually notice there's so many churches. So that means that there's so many people that go to them. Since like, I don't know, I was like 5 or 6 or so. Since then, I think I only go like at weddings, funerals, not, just to try to repair a relationship with God or whatever the reason is, or to learn more about that. I don't know. A lot of people, they're scared to talk about this. And I realize that. A lot of RVD subjects are scary to talk about. Why? People feel guilty about it. So the Bible says, thou shalt not lust. I got no problem with lusting. I follow a lot of really attractive models on Instagram. And Katie actually introduced me to like a whole new world of girls that want to be seen. That's a lot different than girls that are offended. Like eyes are up here when they're wanting you to see them, and it's like a form of celebration because they all love each other and love the whole vibe, and I do too. Anyway, the Bible can say that lusting is wrong, but there's a chemical reaction that goes on in my brain when I see something like a beautiful, what I consider beautiful female body. We're all drawn towards different people, different things, different qualities. And we have this chemical reaction in our brain, and that's just natural. That's what I believe. Now, bro pressure is a good guilt layer too, depending on who you hang out with. If your bros are like, dude, come on, bro, this Friday night, this is our night. You're really gonna go out with her instead of us, bro? Well, if you don't know where I stand on that, dude, I got enough bro time for a life. I prefer being the only bro, and then I have a better time that way personally. Bros are competition, but anyway, I don't want to get off track. I'm just talking about the guilt. Me, I don't feel guilty at all if the bros are like, oh, come on, dude, or even like you want to call the night, at the end of the night, dude, you're going home. Come on, man. How often we see each other? That's an old game. But that's guilt. Now, a lot of guilt is self-inflicted and unnecessary, and that's why I want to talk about it, because a lot of the choices that we make in our everyday life are going to come with guilt afterwards. Why? Because we're doing something that goes against our own values. Why? Because we're not good at prioritizing, because priorities change in the heat of the moment. There's different reasons. Like I said, a lot of people just expect it always to be there. They live with guilt. A lot of people like themselves less because of that. So people can say, yeah, I'm a piece of shit. I would hate to feel that way about myself. I personally am very proud of myself in every way. I don't know if every way. I'm not. I can also be my own critic. But if I need something to work on, I try to work on it, or reason with myself on why I don't. This is why I am not more productive, because I choose to relax and balance the day off, and because peace of mind is more important than stress for me. It's I deserve it, whatever. How about a hit and run driver? Happens all the time. You see on the news, a car hits somebody, takes off. That kind of guilt would kill me, because if I hit a cat or a squirrel even, it would ruin my day. I'd probably cry. I'd probably pull over and cry. I don't know. It would depend, but that would be really sad for me. And a lot of people don't have that guilt. So where's that come from? It comes from our own values and how we live within using those morals and values, our own principles. And the more we live by our own principles, the more integrity we have. Now, who the fuck doesn't want that? A lot of people, their word isn't worth shit because they have no integrity. I'm not like that. I'm not known for being like that, you know. I remember when a couple times in my career, there's been thieves in the dressing room, in the wrestling dressing room, you know. And both times when they had the meetings, they said, Rob, we know it's not you right off the bat. That's good. I'm glad people know that I'm honest. If somebody doesn't believe something that I'm saying, then I'm done talking to them, because if I don't have credibility, then I've got nothing. So my credibility is very important to me. And part of that is having guilt, living up to my own standards, and you know, as a person in a position like mine, that's pretty important. You know, I'm not saying I never fucked up. We all, you know, learn from our experience or from other people's experience. I worked at Main Street Market grocery when I was like, what was I, 16, I think. I didn't want my driver's license, but my parents wanted me to get a driver's license so I could get a car and work. And I remember I wasn't in a big hurry to drive. I think I was 17 when I finally got it. But I was working, bagging groceries at Main Street Market. And I didn't know how to shop by myself, for myself. When I would go on break, I'd get like a 75-cent yogurt. I knew I liked that, but I wasn't used to taking care of myself. One of the guys in the back, you know, said, you paid for that yogurt? And he's like, dude, just grab it. We all grab it, you know? What the fuck, you know? It's a 75-cent yogurt. And I got to thinking about it, you know, and I'm like, oh, that would save me $1.50 every 2 days, $4 every 4 days, you know. I was only making $3.25 an hour. So anyway, I thought that makes sense, you know, if everyone else is doing it. And I took a break and I grabbed a blueberry yogurt and I went into the break room. And the manager came in and sat down and starts talking to me about stuff. And I'm nervous. And I'm like, yeah, Don, hey, you know, see you later. Oh, he turns around before he leaves. One more thing. You got the receipt for that yogurt? Let me fast forward. I'm in the office with Denny McComb, who owned the store. I went to school with his son, Chad. He was in my grade. Cool kid. They're chewing me out. And I am bawling. Like, I was so ashamed of myself. I felt so guilty because I didn't look at it like I was actually stealing from Dennis, the owner. You know, he said he buys that stuff and sells it. I'm stealing from him, and they trust me. And what would my dad think? See, my dad got me that job by knowing them, being associates. And so I really knew I let him down. I was so ashamed of myself. I was bawling. I knew that I wasn't going to do it again. But, man, I felt so guilty. And, you know, that's one of the lessons that I learned along the way, you know. Back when I did RVD radio, I would always talk about subjects like this that make people feel uncomfortable. I remember talking about infidelities and how people cheat on their spouses. And I find that a lot of people clam up. They're not as comfortable. Why? Because they have guilt. Probably the way they live. I don't know how many times I have said in conversation, you know, I'm the most honest person that I know. And you know how many people say, same here? Nobody. They go, they don't. No one ever says, honesty is just as important to me as it is you. It's very important to me. Like I said, I have a reputation and it's a perfect rep. I don't want to fuck it up. I hate lying because lying changes history and we're living history. So personally, I mean, I know that's the first line of defense when you're in trouble. And I lied. Yeah, I got the receipt. It's here in my pocket somewhere for that yogurt, you know, but that's just part of it. You know, one thing that drives me crazy is when somebody drives by a cop car on the highway. The police can be on the other side, 4 lanes over, with a cement median in between, and everybody slows down to like 10 miles under the speed limit. Why is that? Is that guilt? Because if everyone's thinking, oh, I'm speeding, I better slow down without even looking at their speedometer. I always wonder, like, are they guilty of speeding, of breaking the law? Just because I think they should be aware. If that is what it is, check yourself. You know, I'm I'm gonna have you check yourself on something else too, because some people should feel guilt and they don't, and it's easy to do in a position, like what I did in the grocery store. What I did basically was said, I agree to work for $3.25 an hour, and then to pay for my food. But then after I made the agreement, I decided that I deserved more, and then made my own deal. That's fucked up. That's what I call the Tony Vella clause. Okay? Here's why. See, this guy, Tony Vella, he deals in cards, trading cards and shit. And when I had 5 Star Comics, he was someone that was helping us with the cards. Eventually, when we closed down, he was helping us eBay off a lot of products. He eventually became a bit of an assistant for me, where I was paying him a weekly or whatever price, and then he would get commission when he eBays and does other jobs as well. This was when I was with Impact, and at the end of my Impact run, when it ran out, and I was negotiating for a new deal, I made a deal with Tony where I wasn't gonna need him as much. I was gonna need him like half the time, and so I was gonna cut his pay into half, but he was still gonna make money on top of anything else that he did. It wasn't very much money at all. Although I have paid people a lot less to do more. That was basically just he would answer questions or fix something on one of the sites that I think he built anyway. But anyway, so during this time, he's getting, I think it went from $150 a week to $75 a week. And during this time, I didn't realize, but he had decided, that he deserved more regardless of the agreement. That was just the front. And I found out because Sabu told me that Tony had picked Sabu up from the airport and was taking him around, getting him appearances. And then Sabu, I had Tony on a credit card. And so Tony said to Sabu, do you want anything to eat? It's on Rob. And Sabu said he was very generous like that with the card. And Sabu thought that I told him to do that. We checked into it. Tony's been spending a bunch of stuff on the credit card. So, that ended the deal. So we tried to get our stuff from him that he had been eBaying and stuff just from the store, because he had our stuff in storage. And during that time, some stuff came up missing. And so one of the things was Bret Hart's wrestling outfit. I used to have it in the store. I had it in the ceiling. We had the what do you call it? Fucking the pieces of square tile, and then you have the light fixtures up there. And I had the wrestling outfit displayed up there in the ceiling. In fact, this wrestling outfit, this is in the ceiling at my store right now. And Tony swears up and down, no, that's in the box that I gave you guys. And then, it's not there, Tony, Anyway, Tony fucks off or whatever. The reason this is relevant is because it just came up. Just a couple weeks ago, a fan came out to me and said, hey, I'm the fan that bought that Bret Hart outfit from Tony Vella that he stole from you. And that just happened just recently. So that's the Tony Vella clause. It means you make one agreement and then you say, fuck it, I deserve more, behind, instead of just being honest and upfront about it. Okay. Obviously, during the RVD CBD fiasco, the only reason that I shut it down was because Jesse and Justin changed the agreement behind my back. Were paying themselves. And obviously, Jesse's wife, the lovely new Mrs. Daly, was very defendant. She was the only one that responded, her and her friend on social media. You might have caught that, where she very much had Jesse's back. Jesse didn't say nothing, but the wife and the wife's friend tore into me because I wasn't putting him on blast. I was talking shit. Why? She said he deserved it. He makes the website. He oversees this. He does the ordering. He does the graphics. He does the shipping. He does. So in other words, Mrs. Daly is fine with the Tony Vella clause. We all made an agreement, but fuck it. And also, she's basically saying not just fuck the agreement, but fuck being honest about it, and fuck the fact that he ducked it and lied for like 2 years every time we talked about the money that was coming in and looking at the books. Mrs. Daly needs to be careful. Here's why. There's more to the Tony Vella story, okay? So Tony was started booking wrestlers and celebrities to do appearances. How did he do that? Well, he was working with Steve Wolf, who was my agent, and Steve Wolf had a lot of clients, and so he hired Tony to help out and to manage some of the clients that were doing signings. Steve might be there, might be somewhere else. So Tony, what do you think he does? Makes the agreement and then says, fuck it, I deserve more. And then started just booking the clients himself and keeping all the money instead of giving it to Steve. Why? That's the Tony Vella clause. So what does that have to do with Jesse's wife, Mrs. Daly? Well, here's the thing. See, Tony started booking a female talent, somebody that we all know, and I don't want to talk shit about her. Let's say her name rhymes with PETA. And Tony started bragging that he's banging her. Now, I'm thinking, Tony, you got your wife, you got your daughter, you bring them over here to the house and stuff. Do you not feel guilty about that? Of course not. Why? Well, Tony made the agreement with his wife, whatever that was. What's that got to do with how Tony's going to behave himself and act if he feels like he deserves more? Now, I don't want to talk shit about PETA. She was going through a rough time in her life, and I'm sure if that was true, that she was banging Tony Vella, I'm sure she wasn't bragging about it to anybody, and I'm sure she's not proud of it. Check yourself on that Tony Vella clause. Have you made an agreement with somebody, but then really you're fucking them over and you've reasoned with yourself that it's okay? Because if you have, do you think you have integrity? Everything's circumstantial, so I'm going to leave it at that. But, and it's not that I never have guilt. You know, I have little guilt. I remember during the jet ski accident, I mean, I felt guilty that because I was driving, you know, I wish I would have turned right instead of left, you know. I feel guilty that when I was a little kid, I used to take the Schweitzer's cat and throw it up in the air and make it do flips and then land on their pool cover. You know, but the way that I live, the choices that I make, I'm the opposite of guilty, and that helps me and my vibration, and so that's why I want to share it with you, because if you think about it and you can avoid that guilty pressure, feel your spirit ascend via RVDOLOgy. Quick story. All right. One time I'm somewhere in the South wrestling for WWE, starving. And I can't wait to get to Cracker Barrel afterwards because, one, I love Cracker Barrel. And two, they're going to close like at 10. So I got to really get there in a timely manner. And I'm meeting a couple friends there. My friend Larry Weaver, someone else, right? So I slid in like maybe 5 minutes to 10 on purpose because I didn't feel like dealing with a bunch of fans and stuff on this particular night, and I was really hungry and I was tired. I love the fans, but I didn't feel like having my picture taken and stuff. That's the best way to put it. So there's only one other table in there with people. You know, these two females way over there by the front door. So I was like, sweet, I picked a good time to come in here. Sat down, hanging out with Larry and the mystery guest. And we ordered our food, you know, like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so hungry. I think I might have even ordered 2 meals. I've been known to do that at Cracker Barrel. And I'm waiting, and I can't wait. I'm so hungry, and I've told everyone at the table that several times. Here it comes. Yes, thank God. It looked so good. They set it down in front of me. It was a fucking hamburger steak, and then it was macaroni and cheese, and it was those fucking biscuits, and I was just like, oh my God, yes, this is going to be so good. And I grabbed my fork, and I got ready to eat. And then this lady comes over right when I'm ready to have my first bite, and she's like, hi. And hi, nice to meet you. And she's like, yeah, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, I'm Rob. Nice to meet you. And I go to eat, and she's like, my daughter is a big fan of yours. And the daughter walks over, you know, and they were the two that were at the other table by the door. Hey, nice to meet you. I hope you have a great night. And I get ready to take a bite, and she's like, yeah, can she have your autograph? Okay, sure. You know, I signed, I don't know if it was a napkin. It seems like it was a napkin, which is just, you know, kind of a shitty autograph, but what are you going to do in a situation like that? But anyway, I get ready to eat, and she's like, yeah, she really likes you. And I'm like, I really appreciate that. You know, that's awesome, man. I love my fans. I love this food. I can't wait to take a bite of it. I get ready to eat it, and the mom goes, so where are you from? And I kind of lost it a little bit. I mean, I didn't, I lost my cool a little bit, and she felt my vibration change. I rotated my chair, spun it so I was facing her, and I crossed my arms, and I crossed my legs, and I just gave her my undivided attention, looked right at the mom, and I said, I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan, ma'am. Because I was a little offended that she was doing this at the time, you know. She says, whoa, why the attitude? I said, no attitude. I'm just wondering, how long is this interview going to be? And she says, well, I'm sorry. I said, no, ma'am, I'm just waiting to eat. I'm very hungry. And I, you know, are there more questions? She left, and I looked at my friends, and I'm like, what, was I wrong? Because I really don't have a long history of situations like that, you know, bad altercations with fans. It doesn't happen very often. And she came back, and she put the napkin on the table by herself, the mom. And she left the daughter out in the car. And she said, you ruined my night tonight. She said, I was bedridden in the hospital, and all I wanted was a good night out with my daughter to, shut up! That worked. And she said, you were in my night. Also, I just wanted to have a good night out with my daughter to have dinner, and you ruined it for me. And I felt so bad, like my heart sank, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And what more did you want from me? And I just want you to know that. And she left the autographed napkin, and she left. And man, I was so shook up. I don't know if shook up's the right word. Let's say I was so bothered by that I'm telling you about it today. And that was like probably 2002 or something, 20 years ago for sure. So the thing is, I had to keep asking my friends, you know, I felt guilty, you know, I ruined her night with her daughter when they were trying to be out and have fun, and she was sick in the hospital prior to that, and all they wanted was a great night, and I ruined it by being an asshole. Would I have done anything differently? I would have, knowing the outcome for sure. But not knowing the outcome, I don't know that my choices were the wrong ones. I really wanted to eat. So let me know what you think about that. Leave me some comments down below. Fucking like, subscribe, all that shit. Tell everyone you know. Tell people you don't know that you might run into. And hey, keep the guilty pleasures to a minimum.